The Supreme Court to hear a case on prayer in high school sports. Now, today I have Rachel Laser. She's the president and CEO of Americans United for Separation of Church and State. Good morning, Rachel. How are you?
Good morning. I am doing okay. How are you today, James?
I'm doing great. Now, what are the specifics of Kennedy versus Bremerton School District and why the case has gotten this far?
So, this is a case about a coach who violated the religious freedom of students when he pressured them to join him in prayer at the 50-yard line immediately following public high school football games. And James, the school district offered multiple times to work with him on finding a time and a place where he could pray such that he wasn't pressuring students to join. But he refused. He insisted on only conducting public and audible prayers right at that 50-yard line, directly following the handshake encircled by students. And then he sued the Bremerton School District. The lower courts were really clear on this one because the facts of the case and the laws of our country are so clear, and they ruled against the coach. But his lawyers have spun a deceitful narrative and are claiming that he just wants to pray privately and in a solitary manner in order to bring this case all the way to the Supreme Court and undermine this core pillar of our democracy that protects all religions and religious freedom for all of us, which is church-state separation.
Now, what are the potential outcomes of the Supreme Court ruling?
So if the court gets this wrong, it's a very dangerous day for students and their families because it would authorize teachers and coaches all around the country to act as agents of the state and be able to pressure our children to pray. And James, I don't know about you, and I suspect you're on my side, but I think most parents and most people all around the country want to know that they can control the religion and the religious instruction of their families and their children, that this should never be placed in the realm of public schools, that it's for their families and their churches and houses of worship and Sunday schools. So it's a very dangerous day when we're opening the country up to students K through 12 all across the country facing pressure to pray in our public schools.
It's interesting. When I was back in high school, way back in the day, we would be in a locker room and say a prayer. And then when I see football games today, it's very interesting to see teammates from opposing teams come together on the field and pray. So this is very interesting to me. So protecting religious freedom in public schools. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I'm glad that you asked that, James, because the law is that students can come together and pray as much as they want to. And we all know that prayer has been around in public schools since the first day that public school ever existed, right? So it's the problem isn't that students are praying together. That's fine. The problem is when coaches that are acting as agents of the state that only have access to the students and to that spot at the 50-yard line immediately following games because they're agents of the state are imposing their religion on students. You know, conservative and liberal justices alike have protected the religious freedom of students because they know that students are impressionable, that they are forced to report to school. And they're worried about, this is conservative and liberal justices, they're worried about everyone's religious freedom, right? Religious freedom belongs to all of us and not just some of us. It protects all religious beliefs and backgrounds. And that's what is at risk on Monday in the oral arguments before the Supreme Court.
Now, based on the impact, what would the impact of the decision be by the Supreme Court and what it means for schools across the country?
Well, it opens the door to teachers and coaches pressuring students to pray all across the country. And it means that students who are part of religious minorities, who are non-religious, even Christian students that want to follow Jesus's words in the Sermon on the Mount that you shouldn't pray ostentatiously, they're made to feel like outsiders if they don't join in, and they're potentially even losing benefits, right? Because coaches hold serious benefits like playtime, even like access to college scholarships. So it's putting all of that at risk for school children and families all across the country. And it's challenging a core pillar of our democracy and putting that at risk. Church state separation is what guarantees all of us religious freedom. And that's what's on the line with this court case.
Yeah, I can't imagine me playing football way back in the day, and all of a sudden, whether we win or lose, the coach forcing us to go to the 50-yard line and praying afterwards. I can't even imagine that happening or even happening today. It's just really interesting. Now, where can our viewers go for more information? Go ahead. What are you going to say, Rachel?
Well, no, well, first of all, it is happening and it's happening all across the country. But the thing is, the law is so clear that it can't happen that when we get reports of violations, we write letters explaining what the law is, and school districts always comply because they know that the law is so well established. So, just to your point that it's sort of shocking that it's happening, it is happening, but because the law has been so clear, we are able to deal with it. And that's why we need everybody to come together and to support Americans United for Separation of Church and State. We've been around for 75 years, and we've been protecting everyone's right to believe or not as they choose, so long as they don't harm others. We're the only group that brings together religious and non-religious Americans to fight in the court and in Congress and state legislatures and in the public square for freedom without favor and equality without exception. And you can find us at au.org. We need your support. We can no longer take church-state separation for granted in this country. You can see that with cases like we have in Bremerton School District that is going to be argued before the Supreme Court. We need your support at au.org. Please join us.
Rachel Laser, thank you so much for joining us on Morning Blend.
James, thanks so much for having me on the show.